8 lessons for Wortwedding, lesson 1. Don't change the plans at the last minute so that each person who makes up the room, that is this room, who was come to be defined by that which they came here to watch, may quickly find that I don't think as much as I should about their being in love with their work colleague or neighbour. For I am not so timid as not to say anything about that and change that which particularly concerns me within the compass of this lesson that is here to be allowed in Berlin, where I am to speak for the centre of the language while my dance partner will offer me a mattress of paper which floats about our nervous chats, so that I may speak clearly in an English that you all understand. And of course, you have come here to know a journey, to be here through the snow, and didn't imagine you would face emotion that might be dance and is not the practice of tactile familiarity, to throw or trip another human body to the floor, to end up beneath or to deflect the swing of a knife which you have no chance of deflecting, and in an address of that journey you undertook in gratitude, pleased to be indifferent to how we have been sought out, and of course, but not considered, there are things at play which you cannot know in my experience over the last 5 days since I have been here in Berlin, knowing this performance will come, and no doubt you have read your textbooks from the Guild of a Dance Company that lives in a prison is just a moment's walk away, and we have all here visited that website which offers opinions on whether I personally should invest in property in New Colm or Wedding, yet you laughed as if it was possible in this city that someone who is addressing your journey as though it were a subject for poetry could have enough money to also own poetry, even in a place as cheap as one that has no readily available work for the iron women on Rudy Duchka that are pretending to wear the full hijab and walk 5 steps behind me, but listen carefully and you can hear the tools being readied by the striking of a clock in the night's deserted hours around here, where there are no nightclubs, no bars, no ready alcohol, and from my high window, as if in a poor painting of a singing voice being strangled in the past, I have the cold blown upon my fingers and realise in these words like a child that it's a shame for my first lesson to point out that good things happen for bad reasons. Lesson 2. Good morning, Alessandra and her friends, and Monica, and Nicola, and Lydia. Please feel free to sit down upon the floor and the wallpapers which have been stripped away, not to be replaced as though there might have been discovered the remnants of a child who had to be hidden and was not forgotten, but could not be reached. For who is the woman saying, come here, which is almost the same in German as it is in English, and who has yet to notice Berlin is the new Malaga, in that its primary import, besides pineapple, is a current generation of the English. We find a way, like reptilians, to speak to a young man with talent and the rarer gift of assurance and climbing boots. I have been thinking about the progress of these lessons and how they might be defined by themselves as we wait for them to grow into something aside from themselves that are not defined by a video projection of silent minutes over 16 days, which is a flat country of a certain time in the morning where I was normally found becoming a musician of a certain character, practicing the song Macduff again and again down the manhole, let the sky fall down into a heap of bad drawing artists and dancing girls who stack their impressions like horrifically bullied seasonal workers in Hesse, who made me wonder how easily I would impress them with my newfound attractiveness and how many I could get to the moment of investment, because money is such a serious business in any language that the moment is the moment that needs to be translated into a hammer-shaped civil crisis of the moment. Now we must try to lift ourselves higher, says the voice, aware of the terrible shape of noise that is outside that very window behind us now, where at any moment we might be mocked by groups of children who know only one way they might reach us, by breaking our fragile feelings. And I know for one purpose we play them my aforementioned song to hurt them emotionally right back. And if that doesn't work, then we stab them with our superior numbers of run. So ends the second lesson. Lesson 3. But now we must try, higher anxious to define this group smuggling, but at least we aren't alone in wanting to learn music here, and so we can be a group anxious to love each other, or am I assuming too much? Because that is what I assume, even though honestly I'm not comfortable with that idea at all. And I'd much rather be alone right now, let alone in our love-filled future. Remember the silence broken by my music is curious about its blood family, but not so interested in those that might be called the adoption agency, and its client elements which you all shall learn to represent when the radiation from Fukushima arrives and every man's sperm dies. Then we'll see if the divorce settlements remain at 50%. But for now, standing in the correct position with the wood beneath our feet, at a perfect right line with our feet, the foundations arose inside of us a balance which will produce children of clear and changed starts and finishes in living that will match us and define us by being there at all able to speak words back to us like these words, but hopefully more inventive and poetical and clever and political, as though these children of ours can use their brains as ocarinas or flutes into which they speak and make another whole delight their elders a factness. They will all be late and traverse study taken lightly until we don't care anymore. Almost the way you feel about what I'm currently saying, because I have tried your patience by not making eye contact and reading from a paper sheet when the collaborator tries to make you listen. I, like your children, could care less though. Don't mistake this paper shield as a shield for my protection, but for yours. For if I were to look up now and again to emphasize a word, it would be you who would be harmed. Like the hand in the fireplace fire which warmed people in a time when international torture circuits were bursting with content. This lesson shall not be like a ladder that is just too short to reach those trapped in the upper windows of a burning apartment block, of which in your city there are so many to choose from I almost don't know where to begin, with my petrol and my lighter which reads "Welcome to Berlin" and now "Fuck off." Home, foreigner, and I have a laugh. You used to do this kind of exclusion so well, but now it all seems like a watered drink. Good stances, you are still standing on the strong feeling, the heavy pregnancy, emerging from the floor to unswell your head and keep your pitch from wandering to your other interests aside from the art that is one more piece of wood burning in the welding mask that always must remain light to wear if we are to learn. Lesson 4. Be varied in your words, as varied as the noises in your mind. Otherwise it's just noises. But that isn't interesting, asks the one in the front row who will learn. Like choke, choke, choked, laugh, laugh, chalk, chalk, chalked. The mind is not a violin to be tuned. It is a thing that can await the inevitable return of its own sound and process that, give that a name. My flat lamb pays me to dance in another room, not this room where the adults are, sipping our coffee and talking reasonably and profitably about our projects, which kill the time being killed by the children in the next room, clapping their hands, clicking their thumbs and stamping as their waists swing in one repetitive motion that is attached to their arses. But I am only bitter because I cannot make a song, only discuss it awkwardly, and I'll have to return the money and live off the contentment of knowing I made you a little better by being worse than you think you could do. Allow you time to think about how red the stove is, and how you would be handing me the matches and seeing your handiwork glowing better, were it not for the words and the noises and the recording feedback and the videos all distracting you. For at heart you wish you were just in a church hall hearing a sermon written just for you and being heard only by you that comforts you so that you might be famous, to have said only you heard the great Meister as he confided his poetry in you that spoke of an impossibility of knowing what can't be known, especially if there's 4 things going on at once, muddling the senses, and the fire too today, thinking that you was the great creator, as if we were all early this morning arguing that it is necessary for us to argue in order to shape this poem in the flesh of a gentrified ear that is switched from the bipolarity of 2 governments, 2 opera orchestras in this city. I knew you'd find great breathing room, but now you put your lips to my understanding in this room, and the doors are locked, and be faithful to the boredom of a lesson that was on this long and is only just halfway through, and yet it is all right, there is light, and you are speaking too. Lesson 5. I think you are good enough to not need me anymore. That is the responsibility of any speaker, to recognize the coming of that moment. and accept it as a grenade that spins through the air towards us. What you will do with the knowledge is always interpretation, though. It will always originate with me and the sources on the page I had the brilliance to see it from just this morning, for it was one this morning, unwashed, wet. Perhaps it is a sign that you aren't glad of a still new lake like me in love with a person. Else, what would thick city live on? They dig red noses, blossoms with grappa, or so much beer it becomes a fest for the anti-Schwabian. They dig the cold enough confusion to then push in your closed flat door because of the tissue in the cold being in the thousands today. For arriving at a loose door has new significance in this city. So does the tunnel of hair, so does the scarf German pussy that wings more than 2 per bird and winds around to strangle her with wool after I've finished reading. All the German girls need do is go to sleep, quietly. When they don't awake again, all will be over with as far as my heart is concerned, having expressed the concern. It's a shame John Berryman killed himself, unlike Legion's Lazarus, who are directly responsible for it becoming unaffordable in the face of like death, a force that cannot be interrupted or controlled as though it weren't somewhat directly connected with decay and then death, the passing of generations and their assorted fashions and trends that move the people like a pope to retire on a whim, to flush within and then without, but I forget the city's 20. I'm reminded that at 20 there was obvious futile, and I too protested, maybe wishing well. So an invasion of inhabitation and mortality who couldn't get up afterwards like a boxer if she let me. Then I know mental and should push back with my lips, play instrument to accompany my talking, not singing, in the hope the noise is drowning along in a water pit in Egypt. The cemetery just up the road in Princeton Alley, surrounded by a fence that rises, but inside is so profound and quiet that I watch the winter lotus grow from the crappy marble shining fingers of the many German dead or Turkish dead, as the time enough has passed, but it was in there, waiting for a shop to open, that I began and discovered an exhumation of persuasiveness. I really recommend you visit there, I do. Lesson 6. Lesson 5 was not my finest lesson, but I am not myself today. And yet this is the only day, if you are following me properly, I can barely write down because my hands are so in and off my writing cold, which I alone to Alessandra owe and am waiting to have finished, though to force it finished is to know it shall not be so. You understand, I pissed all over my hands to make them work again in Bold Pflanzengarten, and a dog came to lick them clean. His spirituous as beverages of impermanency, impressed that he's not a bother to me 2 feet from my penis, exposed to the freezing cold neologisms of the order of proximity are necessary. Canaloo of a clean that is pure, that is guilty, which is black tea with milk, which happens like black milk of a certain time of day. This is Balzac, and the fat barista called Urban does not get the reference. Parading a perfect coffee circle around a pile of dead bodies that had caught the plague, and are now being saturated with the incense from his censer, and to think he can keep on making young girls pregnant in a time of such disease. And that death doesn't put him off his strokes which repulse the soft stomach like I, who have so much to listen to in Balzac but keep walking. To find the paper tiger lotus paper on sale, and to remember once in Tangiers on a street just like this, as clean as this street, a yellow dog bit me on the hand. It was the first time in my life and I decided he was right. He was simply expressing in his own way that I was in the wrong. And I learned yet in southern Cyprus, on a street cleaner than this street, when a red dog bit me on the hand and would let not go. So he was not teaching me a lesson. I placed the back of his skull to the head-height ruins of a concrete wall from some forgotten insurrection nearby, while he was still jaw attached to my hands. and I used my free hand to slam my own bitten deep into the split of his jaw, ending the lesson there. Audience applause. Lesson 7. Those people going straight up to heaven where they have the time to write. A lot like us in this room, but as residents you would have looked with eyes walking from Prenzlauer Berg to Yukon to see what I had seen. Nothing much. Only in Berlin could this be the case for accomplishment, realizing nothing of note in a stretch of grey so long as to contain so many or something I understand the meaning behind overheard conversation. Pistorius, pastries, the back of a cricket bat spattered in blood, similar to a shot dedicated to poetry or dough, a writer, an artist who really wants to speak of, communicate that which is theirs. That thing is made up of the many millions of ever-multiplying experience that each are sense affect and that accumulate as food in a stomach. That is the being of a schoolteacher whose students don't speak his language, struck dumb simply to do his best in failure of their future, where bedding is cheap and it's hard to make a living from ending it. Though there is the dowry, evaluated as a destination of human reception, each as a therapy for a learned body of men or women called a universitat. If I move here, perhaps I'll wait, and friends will come to me like money in sacked malls. I here and there they eat your guts as if I had the strength I might join in, picking up and making upon the stones, the darling little, the shopping, as some attempt to resist the shield grab of your sand and throw me tips. My scales ready to shield yourself in red flames. All your heaters are bursting underground to get some of the Chinese bombs. You have those right, and your heaters too to use their cheers. And I swarm heaters, and they're going their thing changed from suns, which are really not towards me around to the old dragons who roam me, too stupid to lie as it flowers in Tempelhof, aeroflot dandelions having swords, ready to yourself from our catastrophic argument that in turn shields eaters. So get shields yourself from food that is bad for you, that is everywhere inside the gilded, the fishbowl me, and aquariums drink your sap. And I like floating here, nice and affordable. The window looks out on the hung seaweed around my lips, and I do at the nice night of the tar eaters with their horse to tap. Lesson 8. Tired, these friends here are our last lesson poem. Though I know to many of you this will have been too long, but it is nearly over so you can relax. Walking home from an assuring I am climbing your city. Consider me soon gone. I have been given the opportunity to live in my wife's house and act as a certain person who deserves money for being creatively busy. I will help his daughters as I am now saying how I might save you cannibals, that no matter poetry will not depravity many in a shop front be, as always free-ish. As it begins to want this was a crumble of the spine, a marshal for fire dousing with water, and I do not enjoy dancing, even in a cared for like a child apartment, no matter what itinerant labouring class or race has popularised it as an escape from the pain and drudgery of an anti-culture where they may not enjoy the access of the access that marks my first world mural. Here, you will find a bear with a crown in Prenzlauer Berg. There, a strung-up preferred trophy goat in Yukon. A ghost with a stomach in its heart and a mouth in its chest somewhere in Litter. There, a promise to you, these friends. Here are our last lesson poem. Though I know to many of you this will have been too long, but it is nearly over, so you can relax. Again, your mind back to fights with arts you survived. With love in your hands here, a group of people, probably very few that I didn't mention my low expectation earlier to insult you. And you wish to live alone as we have been practiced to do so. Open only to the through-gate accord of a father with a dead bloody rabbit in one hand and a wish to teach shooting also in that hand. And the other being a desire for it to be cooked and recognised, you and all the one who truly wants to kill you. It is out of malice and memorised love, the balanced one argument I have made over the last half an hour. I know and I see you doing well, better than I at the end now. Invited to a great gallery in front of them dresses and bald mouths like yours we are, as I am formerly violent frightened, with big ears treading clumsy on your fingers, standing still in place, not once having looked up, after beginning with good in circles, not intruding too much to the message I carried out about this single room, though she expected applause or thanks, or cast to when you were arguing back, which you shouldn't have, because you might not even move to Berlin yet anyhow.